Is a Kraken in the budget? Like a few people in this sub, I'm not actually tech support but de facto support because I can plug a USB in first time. Okay, I lie, no one can do that, and because I know enough to get myself into trouble and some fancy Google search terms to get myself out of trouble. I don't actually have a budget for IT equipment, but I can pretty much buy what I need, and occasionally want, if I have reasonable justification for it. I just need the owner to sign off on it, and to be fair, he rarely says no because he knows I do things on as small a cost as possible. Every day I need to print just over 100 pages to a printer at the other end of the office, only a handful of meters away, but as the printer has a maximum of 150 pages I need to check it's got paper each time. The young lady who works right next to the printer tells me to just ask her to check the paper level. Asking to check the paper level each day gets boring, so I rename the printer Kraken. Now instead of asking her to check the paper level I can ask her to ready the Kraken. We're weird and it makes us smile. Owner overhears us one day as I yell ready the Kraken. The owner has a good sense of humor and sends me an email. I don't remember signing off on a Kraken. Please can you send me the initial outlay, running costs, and justification for a Kraken. Please also remember to submit the VAT receipt for a Kraken. There's no way this system will still be running in a decade. We don't need offboarding.
When you're dealing with systems that haven't had proper support for years, you're inevitably going to run into landmines. My boss has been away on sick leave for a while, and it was just extended further. As such, I delegated his approval tasks to myself so we could get the low-impact stuff moving. Part of that was approving people for access to this ancient ordering system. I approve the 30 pending requests and go on with my day. Today I wake up to a few messages from the new people. No license available. Wait, what? Oh right, we're limited to 4,000 licenses. There is no way we have 4,000 active users. After digging up the database info, it turns out that we have licensed users that last logged on in 2011. Is there any automated method of cleaning out licenses for offboarded users? Is there any manual way that I can trigger? Did anyone at any point create some way of handling user licenses? Adding, removing licenses in bulk? Anything at all? Oh, and is there a test or dev environment for the system? Also no. After double checking that I still have the email from my boss giving me full authority to do whatever I deem necessary with this outdated system, and absolving me from any consequences if it breaks due to the lack of training in the system, I get to work. SQL update. All users with a license that have not started a session since the 1st of January 2020, remove license. 2,912 records updated. 1088 users still have a license. Every user I know has logged on recently still has a license. Service desk informed. No issues should arise, but if they do I'm to blame. Post-mortem sent to my boss and Scrum Master. Sweating gradually decreasing. The system didn't explode. Another day saved. TLDR. Another fire put out by smothering it with napalm.
Found the problem. It's the computer you send the log files from.
I had this software that was needed for our job, that would constantly have little problems here and there. We would get unexpected exception errors and things would close. Most of the time I could fix the error because I'd been doing it for years. Every once in a while though, there will be an error I can't fix and I need to call the software support. Well, we had this one terrible error that was happening to everyone and I could recreate it at will. So I told the software company and they didn't believe me, so I sent them the log file. We started getting the error doing different things, so I kept opening tickets every time another variant of the issue happened. They would always ask for a log file, so instead of logging onto the computer that originally reported the issue, I would recreate the issue on my computer and send the log file. Finally, after about the 15th ticket I opened with the variant of this bug, I was told they had a solution. They said, the problem is on the computer. All the issues they are seeing is coming from the same computer. They then closed the ticket as fixed. I had to tell them that of course it came from the same computer because I was recreating the problem and sending the logs. So I opened each ticket again with a log from a different computer, just to make them happy.
When the interviewee knows the business better than the business does. It's always useful to keep a finger on the job market pulse. I had an alert come up for a poster child company that had just gotten out of the garage startup phase and was making waves through an industry that I'm intimately familiar with. These guys had it all: captive market, really cool product, young and fresh ideas, deep pockets, free reign to build IT as I saw fit, and an awesome office with great views. It was really a bonus when I found out that their office was across the road from a coffee bun place. They are so delicious. The role itself was fairly senior and would be integral in defining company strategy and product direction. My personal experience would help them avoid many of the pitfalls of the industry, and my contacts would lubricate many of the challenges they would come up against as they commercialized their product, and they were actually desperate for someone who could do just that. All this from a head of IT. Yes please, gimme. Called up the recruiter, and within about 15 minutes they were begging. First round interview, straight to the top. You know that feeling when you've gelled perfectly with the interviewers, there's total alignment and you've got it in the bag. The only thing that made my eyebrows raise a bit was it looked like everyone was in their 20s. I rewarded myself with a coffee bun. Second round interview was a bit strange. There was probably about a dozen people in the panel from across the business. Engineering, marketing, product development, compliance, and half the C-suite. And it lasted about 3.5 hours. Lol what? Once again, I'm the oldest person in the room by a significant margin. And this is where it actually fell apart. What became very apparent to me is that the company had no idea about the market they were playing in. Everybody was so focused on their own part of the puzzle that nobody had their eye on the bigger picture. In fact, they had no idea about the scale of the bigger picture. Including all the XOs in the room. The compliance activities that they thought would open the door to commercial opportunity in this industry was merely a gate check prior to being invited to talk to the real certification bodies. And they had no idea about the soul-crushing body of work that was just past what they thought the finish line was. Then I started to give them a rundown on things like defense clearances, reporting requirements, ETAR and EAR, the local regulatory regime, how to integrate nationality requirements within the bounds of employment law, the different standards bodies and their relative importance, change management, advanced persistent threat, ASD8, NIST 800-171, etc., the various government grants available, etc., etc. I already knew this job wasn't for me, but invested the time in trying to prepare them anyway, in the same way that a senior will help to teach a junior. I could see the XOs getting more uncomfortable each time I peeled another layer off the proverbial onion, while the engineers were faithfully taking notes. Probably saved them a bunch of consulting costs. On my way out, I got another rewarding coffee bun. Yum smile. At the end of the day, I withdrew my application, and the recruiter let me know that they canned the position anyway. The budget was going to be spent on more compliance people instead. Remember people, interviews go both ways. You have cancer and almost passed out waiting? Then you shouldn't be here at all.
I recently started working at my local electronics store, and one day whilst I was doing resets of returned computers, there was an elderly man sitting on one of the waiting chairs and asked me if I could queue him in for tech support. It was me and like 3 others, we're very short-staffed. I asked him if he had an appointment and he said no, he just told me about how he had cancer, and almost passed out waiting for us. I hadn't been properly trained just yet, and so asked one of my higher-ups to take care of him. I overheard the conversation that ensued, and the man said again that he had cancer and almost passed out waiting, but my higher-up saw through him and said that if he's prone to passing out simply sitting and waiting, then that's an urgent medical issue and he should see a doctor, as a tech store is the last place he wants to be if he does pass out. The guy just left. But man, was it satisfying to witness.
Users are removing hard drives while the computer is on.
So, a little backstory? We have computers with removable hard drives. You can literally push a button on the front of the tower and pull the hard drive out. This is because the users have to lock up those drives at the end of the day. Apparently, some users are convinced that they are supposed to leave the system on, and with it powered up and the OS still running, eject the drive and lock it up for the day. And it gets better. They will then leave the system powered up, or if they actually shut the system down before ejecting said drive, power the computer up sans hard drive. This is so it can get updates over the night. You know, the ones that are patches and software pushes for the computer. Which at this point doesn't have a hard drive. So it'll just sit there all night with no boot device found, supposedly getting updates. I'm not making this up.
Client get multiple parties involved and drags a ticket out for days all because she didn't have her device plugged in.
I work in hardware, software support for a company that makes medical equipment and distributes to hospitals. I got a support ticket Monday from someone who works in the IT department for a network of regional hospitals. A doctor had shipped him one of our devices, from an hour away, requesting he reach out to us on her behalf to fix it. The only word she included in her email to him was broken. That's it, literally nothing else. I requested that the IT guy, who is the only person I'd actually spoken to at that point, contact the doctor to get some more information. To which he told me, trust me, we will both regret doing that, and then told me how much of a nightmare this doctor is to work with. I told him we had no choice because I can't send a device in for repair with absolutely no information. So he calls her, puts her on speaker, and after he explained I had some questions about the device, she immediately started yelling. I was listening to her secondhand, through the speaker of that guy's cell phone into his work phone's microphone and then out through my headset earpiece. Needless to say, her yelling was almost unintelligible. After she stopped yelling and I could get a word in, I asked her what the specific problem was and she again went on another tirade, except I heard her say the device wasn't connecting to the software properly. And I sigh to myself because I know more problems are going to arise from here. I tell her due to it being a connectivity issue, there are several troubleshooting steps we need to take before determining that repair service is needed. She then just cursed once more, says, "I don't have time for this," and hung up. It's silent for a few seconds and then the IT guy goes, "A real treat, isn't she?" and asked what we can do from here. I ask him if it's at all possible for him to get access to the specific terminal she was using so we can troubleshoot, and of course he says no, due to him working at the central office for the entire network of hospitals, an hour away from where she was calling from. I tell him the only option is to send it back to her and tell her to call our support line directly so we can investigate the problem with her. Again he reminds me that will only make things worse. A few days pass and I'm hoping and praying that I'm not the unfortunate soul to get the call from her when she finally calls in, begging the gods to inspire her to submit her ticket via email so I can talk to her that way. But no, bright and early Thursday morning, my very first ticket of the day, I get the phone call from her. This is, vaguely, how it went. Me. This is Hungry Hippo from Indescript Medical Company. How can I help you? Dr. Beep. After a few seconds of silence, she finally speaks in the most beep condescending tone you can imagine. You told me to call you so I assume you know what this is about. Me. Are you calling regarding an existing ticket? I didn't know who I was talking to at this point. We get hundreds of tickets a day. She then rattles off the ticket number as fast as she possibly could. I had to ask her to repeat it slower. She sighs and repeats the ticket number, except this time, as slow as she could, obviously mocking me. Which I just ignored. I pull up the ticket, realize who I'm talking to, and my heart sinks me. Oh, I see it. You were having connectivity issues? If you could just. She cuts me off. DB. How long is this going to take? Calling you for help is always a beep nightmare. Me. Well, if you'll let me diagnose the problem, I can get you on your way. I remote into her computer to check a few things. The device isn't showing up in the device manager, it connects via USB. I ask her if it's currently plugged in and, in her signature beep tone, she says, yes. So I ask if she can try a different USB port. She asks, do you mean one of the ports on the computer? And then I instantly knew what the problem was. I asked her if she was connecting to a USB hub and, if yes, to make sure the USB hub was connected to the computer. Sure enough, it wasn't. She was blowing a gasket over her device not even being plugged in. She plugged the hub in and the device was recognized instantly. Of course she didn't apologize for her behavior or anything. She just said, it's working now, hung up, and I closed the ticket. And to put the icing on the cake, she gave me a 0 out of 5 satisfaction rating. What a beep.
May your day be filled with joy and happiness. And please remember to subscribe to Upvote for the best quality content every day.